All right, so what we were saying was,
And tell them the show.
yeah, I was about to say. So we were listening to Joe Rogan's podcast, and he had this person on called the Hotep Jesus, and he was on there to promote a book on basically how he built up his social media status or how to get paid from or whatever. But as we get to the end of the episode, he started getting into basically how.
Well, it's difficult, I think, for people that were born in America and all their known ancestors are from America to even relate. Like my family is mostly from Italy and Sicily, and some of them from Ireland.
Mm-hmm.
I don't relate at all.
Right.
I visit Italy in the summer times. I don't relate at all.
Right. So then the other psyop is the fact that we were the natives. We were not brought here on slave ships. That's not economically sound. It just
What do you
doesn't
mean?
make sense. So when Christopher Columbus got here, Christopher Columbus got to the Caribbean, according to a primary source.
Right.
They basically said the first thing he did was take slaves. He didn't bring slaves. He took slaves from the island. He captured people.
But I'm still confused. There's a great history of slave ships being brought over from Africa with Africans that became slaves and worked in the South.
So-
Do you think that's lies?
History is his story.
Right.
What about my story? Is my story not valid?
But if you do 23andMe on someone who is from these parts of the country, you'll find out that
23andMe?
Well, that's real.
So
what is 23andMe?
So when I take a 23andMe test, right?
Yes.
What's it going to tell me about Africa?
That's a good question. We should find out.
It's probably
We
going to
should take
say,
one.
"Oh, you're from Kenya, or you're from Angola, you're from this, right?"
Right.
These things, these borders, were created by Europe.
In terms, yes,
Right.
In terms of like what parts of Africa and how it's distributed and what's a country and what's not a country.
Yeah,
right.
these
by
names,
the Afrikaners and Dutch. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you can't classify me based upon a European name.
I understand that, but they're saying geographically, geographic location, you can call it whatever name you want.
Right.
They can tell you where your genetics originated. Like
Right.
I've got some weird shit in me. I got like 1% Asian. I don't know why it's there. 1.6% African.
Okay.
There's also weird stuff that you find in your DNA that like your ancestors and ancestors' ancestors.
So
Someone
let's
was
walk
somewhere.
down that. Let's walk down that
Right.
path, right? So either way, if you take black people here in America and you do their DNA sample and it point back to Africa, what does that say? It says black people in America are Africans. Now, the argument is, were we brought here or were we already here?
300,000 only be brought into North American shores. Was that the only thing he said outside of that? Was there any other arguments he brought up? But we know that's not even really a good argument, because if you break down 2019, 1619, 400 years, divide that by 42 million, if I'm not mistaken, and push you at right about 100,000. So I only took 100,000 per year to basically get to that number, that's not a lot. That's not a lot to get to 42 million in 2019.
500 million of us came over.
Oh, exactly. Right.
I do that. I embellish on that.
Right.
You right there, and we can actually check the records.
Yeah.
So these things are really, you just have to go to the microfilm. Go to your library.
Right.
Or the secret place called the library.
Right, exactly.
The vote.
They bring up the Brazilians having all those, the majority of them going there, and I think their population is like only 55 million, but they haven't really got the opportunity, to my understanding, to thrive in the North American environment, society. They haven't had that opportunity to thrive to 42 million over time. Like, I don't think people consider that. Like, they bring it, because if I'm not mistaken, it's 55 million Africans and the Brazilians that are descended from the slaves that are bought at that point.
Right, the majority of the slaves weren't brought to America. They was in the Caribbean first.
Right.
Right, and then
they come on.
The point is, they were bred over here. Artificial selection by domestication. The same thing they do with the racehorse.
Right, exactly.
In the wild, right now, if you took some racehorses and threw them in the wild, over generations, they'd grow their hair back.
Right.
Watching that podcast.
The pigs.
About the coyote.
Yeah. They do the pig the same way.
Coyote.
I don't know. Joe Rogan. I forget the guy's name.
Y'all need to study coyotes. That's the most serious
he talks about
creature in North America mammal that I've ever heard of. Meaning
Right.
that when you try to kill the coyote, certain hormones go off in the coyotes that will make them have more babies. So the more you're trying to kill them, the more babies they have.
Right. The less they
not eradicate them.
Right. And they're in all 50 states, if I'm not mistaken.
Because they tried to kill them out west.
Yeah.
And he just started moving and spreading. That's a hell of an invasive species right there.
No, it is. Steve Ranella talks about how you can take a fair pig and you can throw him out in the wild and he'll grow tusks, get his hair, and grow that back and basically turn into a wild hog. So you can see that transformation in more than one thing, not just the horse. It can happen instantaneously with those pigs. Like within the year, they'll start to change rather than those generations for those race horses. So
wow. So
you
can see the evolution occurring.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. So studying animals definitely helps you understand evolution, and of course, people not going. They don't want to get into all that. They just want to say we come from monkeys, and no, we didn't come from monkeys. Speaking of, I have on the shirt grade 8. This is just something I'm playing with. We was just in the mall. Old lady walked past me, and she was like, grade 8. And she just kept walking under her breath and said that to me. I was like, yeah, that's the response I want. I want you to be like, what is he talking about? What is he doing with that? Why is that? Because if you don't know the category, it's not that crazy. Do you really understand what they're saying? And you,
grade 8. So
right.
That's our scientific category.
Right. Absolutely. So I just think it's interesting. I tried to get the pseudo killer shirt, but I couldn't get it in time quick enough. But it's on the way.